Hey everybody, welcome back to the ocean. This is Theory Chum, and I got Chum with me. Last time we had a full-length video, we talked about FNAF World and how it's the antimatter of the agony that's inside of the crying child's brain whenever he got bit by the Fredbear. Today, we're going to go further because this isn't just an antimatter particle universe. It follows the same things and themes that we see throughout the series. And this is also going to tie in to Secret of the Mimic. The crying child. The one left behind. The one whose agony didn't just echo, it stayed. In emotional field theory, emotions can radiate like fields, with trauma forming intense, localized distortions. When the crying child was bitten in 1983, he didn't just suffer, he split. His agony was so powerful, it created a tear in the 0-point field, forming a new type of emotional antimatter, a reversal of his pain in the form of a surreal landscape. What he knew in his temporal and occipital lobes as Fredbear and Friends, the TV show that was his release, his away from the hordes. Whenever we see Fredbear, he's more than a guy. He's the crying child's waveforms collapsing. It's a fragment of his consciousness. The world glitches because it's unstable. It's not a dream like people think about dream theory. It's a reaction. Not just a reaction to the bite or the stuff going on as the crying child's in a coma, but everything, like across time, just like as we saw in the chip route in Return to the Pit, just like as we see Oswald seeing the MCI, the crying child in FNAF World is also going through time travel. We're going to take a few steps to look at this. Mendo is a shopkeeper in FNAF World. He's got a battery compartment in his chest, just like the Mimic does in Ruin. He also has this little antenna on top. This is going to be important. There's also Porkpatch and Bubba. If we look at their endo jaws, they don't match the Endo O2, whom has the straight lines, because near the edges, they don't curve back. They're a flat row of teeth, just like the Mimic's teeth. The crying child's emotional field flipped that into a cartoonish absurdity because that's how the agony was seen in its antiparticle mirrored state. Now, we're going to go ahead and look at more of a timeline twist here, right? So, in the recent Secret of the Mimic teaser, a lot of people are saying it's pareidolia to see objects and symbols in the back. But in these two clips that are right by each other, these are not CRT artifacts. And we can tell because whenever you look at a CRT artifact, and this even exists in the filter, the top waves are not uniform. They're not going to be flush because those squigglies are made by interferences in the scan lines, which is also how the filter makes it. And so if they're broadening those scan lines that are running vertically, that's why they're not coming out flush, because it creates those peaks and those waves. So they wouldn't be able to create not only perfect curves, but kind of like lightning. It wouldn't happen twice in the same spot to show two relevant images that tell us a time of what's going on here. The first one, and these come in order, is going to be 8, and the second one was going to be 3, which is the year that the crying child got bit. And that is a significant date for us. It's also centered in the middle window both times. This was put here intentionally. This begins antenna theory. If we look at FNAF World, we have a whole bunch of enemies who fit a very particular theme. A lot of these that we didn't even know at the time were going to be connected to Secret of the Mimic or Edwin end up being connected to one, the other, or both. So first, we're going to look at the obvious, It's going to be the mimic ball that summons Virtual Freddy. If you look on the top of his head, he has a little antenna, and it goes off and it activates every time he's going to mimic something. We can also look at FNAF World to see these antennas on buildings that are around mansions that look like the Murray Costume Manor, with one of them even having the circular indentations above the doors, the red roofs, the flags streaming across them. And again, this is the crying child's perception. So he's seeing the manor being twisted with cartoonish absurdity, as I said earlier. So we can also look, Gearrat has this antenna on him. And whenever he has this antenna on him, we look at the Secret of the Mimic trailer. The protagonist is using a gear that is a rat. This antenna is also on Candy Cadet, Happy Frog, the bites, including the Medkit bite, which I believe is a reference to Dolly, the Wasp bites, which I believe is a reference to the Bee animatronic that the recent poster came out for, and then the eyeball bite, which can either be something that's in the series, or it could also be a reference to the Mimic having different eyes, with like the heat coil thing going on. Recently on X, Johnny Block showed upcoming graphic novel clips, screenshots of Tales from the Pizzaplex. And in Submechanophobia, the Colossal is actually sitting there on a table. And that, again, is from FNAF World. I guess it's not from FNAF World, it's in the real world. FNAF World is copying it, but from our timeline perspective, we see it come from FNAF World. Even the Troll update, or the Halloween update for FNAF World, has a bunch of references to the Mimic as well. We have the Mad Jack enemy, we have the Tangle, we have the Prototype, we have the Security, which in this game, unlike the main game, does have an antenna and a compartment in its chest. We have the Quad Endo, showing a reference to the Amalgamation, and there's Purplegeist, who is supposed to be like some energy of Afton, which could obviously be a reference to the Mimic AI program, such as Glitch Trap. So what am I getting at here? What is antenna theory, and what is the purpose of it even being around? I believe the objects that we see with antennas in FNAF World are all Edwin-era items, and we're going to see either them or a semblance of them inside of the Secret of the Mimic game. We'll probably even see things like chillax, or bear traps, or maybe a hunter who uses bear traps. I think all of these things are very possible, as well as we already have some knowledge of predation with the mediocre melodies. I think we're also going to see some things about Happy Frog in Secret of the Mimic and Candy Cadet, because they do also have the antennas. So don't be surprised, and make sure you come back here and let me know whenever we're playing Secret of the Mimic and we got Colonel Cadet or Colonel Candy telling us stories from 1979 and maybe even before what's going on. So let's go ahead and wrap it up. We're going to see and bring everything together so you can see what I'm saying. The crying child gets bit in 1983. Whenever he is bit, he creates negative agony that, like in Man in Room 1280, cycles through his brain. That negative agony has antiparticles, which is the positive mirrored side, which for the crying child is going to be Fredbear and Friends. And that's why it looks so absurdly cartoonish. From here, just like in Into the Pit and Return to the Pit, the agony doesn't experience time. And since it doesn't experience time, it's able to see things flow through time. Here's going to be my reference point. Whenever Oswald sees Chip in the future, Chip tells him about what happened with Mike. He says Mike leaves 10 years after the year after everything occurred, referring back to the MCI, which in Into the Pit was 1985. This is an 11-year gap, which means it's absolutely understandable and possible that a 4-year gap between 1983 and 1979 is possible. I'm thinking the crying child is either interacting with the mimic's agony that's around and is seeing memories and images, or his agony himself, being not experiencing time, is going back and seeing these past memories through his own perception, even without powering the mimic. I also think that the things in FNAF World with the antennas and the mimic teeth are a representation of the Edwin era, and also kind of gives us insight that these things were being planned well back in 2016, contrary to how a lot of people interpret or understand what's been said about the series ending, what's been planned for this series, or even just outright believing. I think we're going to see a lot of these things coming up in Secret of the Mimic, as even the Steel Wool Studios guys said that there's a lot of characters in. I think a lot of these characters are going to be specifically from FNAF World. I do want to make a special notice of something. If we look in FNAF World, there's actually these little dogfight enemies, and we already know that the Crying Child can see across dimensions in this because he can see Anim Dude, Chipper, things like that. And even though those aren't canon endings, we would still assume that the ability works the same. So I believe that this dogfight we're seeing, that is the exact replica of Garrett's toy, just a different color, is the same cross-dimensionality. I think the Crying Child is seeing Garrett's airplane here. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, alright? My video schedule is probably going to be a little bit erratic for a little bit. I might even take a break until Secret of the Mimic is done and I have a theory put out on that, and then pick up with my remaining theories after that. As always, it's always something, and life is kind of picking up right now. Thank you guys so much for staying in tune. Make sure to like the video, and if you did like it, swim your finger on over to the subscribe button. Stay chilling in the ocean until next time. Adios.